right. This Monday, a lot of stories breaking, just like last Friday, Daytona, as you know. But we're following it here on NewsNOW from Fox. We do want to start off with all the news surrounding the coronavirus. Unfortunately, we passed a very grim milestone in the United States today. The number of dead Americans has now surpassed 300,000 because of the coronavirus. Just a terrible, terrible statistic, Daytona. And this is all in the backdrop of today. The first shipments have gone out for the COVID vaccine made by Pfizer that was authorized on Friday night. And so we've brought you scenes from across the country, California, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, where those frontline healthcare workers have been the first to get the vaccine from today. And we just wanted to play out from Fox News, their correspondent. Her name's Laura Ingle. She kind of broke all of this down from where it started in Queens, New York today, with nurses there getting the first shots.
A possible turning point in the fight against COVID-19. Hospitals across the country administering Pfizer-BioNTech's coronavirus vaccine today, kicking off the largest vaccination project in U.S. history.
Hopefully seeing a light at the end of the tunnel.
UPS and FedEx staggering their deliveries throughout the day to 145 distribution centers. The immunizations starting just hours after shipments arrived. Here in New York, healthcare workers on the front lines were among the first to roll up their sleeves.
I feel hopeful today, relieved.
More than 500 sites will receive their shipments in the coming days. Some 3 million doses are in this initial batch. Another 2.9 million will be rolled out shortly after to give people their second dose of the vaccine.
Less than a year, much less than a year. These vaccines have already been administered in Great Britain and Canada. They're now going to be administered here in the United States.
Pfizer taking just months to develop this vaccine. Health experts say despite the shortened timeline, they're confident it's safe.
I think we're going to slowly start to see people feel good and liberated, that they're sort of in the clear to be able to live a more normal life with the vaccine, and I think that's going to prompt more people to take it.
And another 500,000 doses will be kept in reserve to address any distribution issues. In New York, Laura Ingle, Fox News.
So, Andrew, obviously, big historic news coming out today. I was reading, too, that Dr. Fauci is going to get vaccinated in the next week or so. But all these health professionals are still warning, we need to stay vigilant. We still need to understand that even with these vaccines, there's still a pandemic that's going on right now. So just have to be smart about that. But I did speak with an ICU nurse earlier today. It was a really, really great conversation. I want to pull up a picture for you. You saw a couple of those shots of that woman in New York, and this woman that hopefully I have this picture. Let me see if I can pull it up. This woman that I interviewed, she actually was one of the 5 health professionals who also got vaccinated alongside her. So I'll show this right here. Sandra is that one on the left. Her name is Sandra Lindsay. And then on the far right is the woman that I interviewed, Elise. And so she was one of the first people in the United States to get this COVID-19 vaccine. And she said she was a little bit sore today, had a few, felt just a little sick, but for the most part was really, really excited about the whole situation. So it's such great news to hear that, Andrew.
Yeah, in Daytona, I didn't get to watch earlier when we played out that interview with the nurse there. So let's take it away for that really great conversation, talking to the first people, like you said, in the United States who are getting this shot.
You're watching News Now from Fox. I'm Daytona Everett. I am joined by North Shore ICU nurse Elise Isopo. She was one of the first people to get the COVID-19 vaccine today in New York. Elise, how are you feeling?
I feel great. I feel happy, relieved. I know it's not over, but it's there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just a feeling of a little relief.
So let's just start with when you walked through the doors today to get that vaccine. What did that feel like?
I was a little nervous. I was only nervous not about getting the vaccine, just because I knew there was going to be media there. But otherwise, I was so excited. I was so excited that I was asked. I was honored to be asked. It's been such a long haul, and this was just something that we've been waiting for. We've been waiting 9.5 months for some kind of hope, and the hope is finally here.
Yeah, and how did all of that work? You know, did they prep you at all, kind of explain what the vaccine was all about? Just explain the process.
So just being a nurse practitioner and being on the front line of COVID for the last 9.5 months, I've been obviously reading a lot of research and reading about the vaccine and waiting for the vaccine. So I did my own research behind the vaccine and the science behind it. And as we know, the science is backing the vaccine. The FDA is backing the vaccine. So I wasn't nervous at all about getting it. It was more of a sign of relief and excitement than anything. They did ask if I was willing to take one of the first vaccines. And when they asked me, there was no hesitancy. And I said yes right away.
Yeah. I mean, being located in New York, you were at one point the hot spot for the COVID-19 pandemic. Going from then to now, and New York being the first state to get COVID-19 vaccines, I mean, what a change, what a turnaround, right?
Absolutely. And I think it couldn't have come at a better time, because we're in our second surge right now. The numbers are getting worse and worse every day, every week. This is 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, so we're definitely feeling it from the gatherings from Thanksgiving. So it really was great timing that we have some kind of hope, because what we're seeing coming through the doors is a lot of patients again. We're filling up, and things are getting worse again. And just the feeling is very overwhelming, and you don't realize that you have post-traumatic stress until you have to do it over again. So just the vaccine coming at this time gives us a little hope and happiness in the dark times.
So, I mean, it's been hours since you got the vaccine. How are you feeling right now? How is your body feeling?
I actually feel fine. After getting the vaccine, I came straight back to work, and I began working like nothing. Actually, when I was working, I feel a little happier, even though obviously I need my mask and socially distance, and I'm not protected until after the second vaccine. And even then, I'm still going to wear my mask and socially distance until enough of our population is vaccinated, so we all are safe.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, you got the first one, right? And then you have to get another one. When do you have to get that, and what will that look like?
So that one is in a month from now. I'll get the second vaccine. By then, based on the evidence and the data, I should be like 95% immune to the virus. There's still, a 5% chance, which is very low. But until enough of the population is vaccinated, I still won't feel 100% secure. But I know that since I was one of the first and my colleagues were one of the first, that other people are going to be getting it, and we're getting there. There's a light to where we're going.
Yeah. I mean, this has to be somewhat of an emotional experience for you. I mean, day in and day out, you're dealing with people in the ICU who are in critical condition, now seeing a glimmer of hope. What does that mean for you and other healthcare workers, specifically in New York?
So I felt, I definitely shed a tear today. I definitely took a nice deep breath, a sigh of relief that there is hope. We just need enough of the people to get the vaccine to be able to have that herd immunity, and enough people vaccinated so we can eradicate this virus and have some kind of normalcy again. And that's why I had no problem saying yes for the first one, because I want people to see I could do it. I feel good. I'm safe, even if I got a little sick from it. But obviously, as of right now, I feel great, and I feel like the same as I did this morning and yesterday. But just that I have no link to anything, except for I just want us all to have normalcy again.
Yeah. I mean, there's people out there right now who are nervous about the vaccine and they're not sure how it would affect them. What's your message to them as you're on the front lines every single day seeing people with the virus itself?
So my message to them is we have to know the science, know the evidence, trust the FDA. I full-heartedly trust everything that has gone into this vaccine. I know it was, warp speed that this came out, but the science is there, the evidence is there, and we're all here to say, please get the vaccine so we can end this war. It literally is a war every day, walking in during the height of the pandemic, and now again, as numbers are increasing. It's horrible. It's devastating seeing people dying, and knowing now that there's a vaccine that can help us, please, as soon as it's available to you, get it, because then we all can be safe.
Yeah. In your state, there's people who are rioting out on the streets, protesting, saying they want things to open back up again. What do you have to say to that when you watch those videos, those clips? What is that like?
So you kind of take, it hurts. It hurts because people don't realize what we're doing every day, putting ourselves out there, the staff, the patients, and people are dying. And to open back up, it's just going to get worse, and we're going to get spread thinner. More people are going to die, and it's not worth it. And a little bit of closing things down is a lot more of healthy people staying alive.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation right now, but like we said, some hope, some light at the end of the tunnel. But my question now is, okay, the vaccine is out and it's giving people a lot of hope right now, but things aren't completely over, right?
No, we're not over by any means, and it's not going to be over for a while. The vaccine is coming out slowly, so until we get enough people vaccinated, we're actually getting worse again. The summer was quieted down, and things now are getting worse. The Christmas is coming, Hanukkah's here. We just passed Thanksgiving, people are gathering, and we're seeing it. We're seeing the gathering right now, the numbers increasing, us getting spread thinner and thinner every day for how many patients are coming in. So it's not over. It's nowhere near over. And even me getting the vaccine, there's hope, there's light. The more people that get it, the better off we're going to be. But we still have to be safe, wear our masks, socially distance, and then we'll all be safe for a better day ahead.
Yeah. I mean, stepping back into you getting the vaccine today, you weren't the only one, right? You were with a group of healthcare providers. So what is it like now, all of you guys coming together, being able to do this and share this experience, as you've obviously shared several experiences over the months of the pandemic?
Yeah. So there was 5 of us today, all from different Northwell hospitals. It actually was so great. It was such a bonding moment because we were all so excited to be there and happy that we were there, being able to do this, and we all felt some hope and happiness, and we haven't felt that in a very long time. So it was a great moment to be a part of it and to be able to say, please go out there and do it. I did it. I have 3 young kids, and I felt safe doing it. I have a family, and I felt safe doing it. So please go out and do it.
That's just so great to hear. I mean, it really is nice to hear that we're taking steps forward into what will be a new normalcy, but definitely some sense of normalcy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, Elise, is there anything else that I'm missing that you want to share with all the people who are watching right now? Could be about the vaccine. It could be just about your experiences in ICU.
I just want to say that with the holidays coming, if people could just do the right thing and socially distance, this is probably one of the last main holidays that we're going to have to do this for. So if we can get through these holidays, socially distance, our numbers won't rise again and go to these numbers that we can't handle in the hospitals and in the ICUs. So hold tight, because we'll definitely have a better Christmas and next year.
Thank you so much, Elise, and thank you for everything that you and your fellow frontline workers are doing. We appreciate you. You deserve a happy holiday for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're watching All right, so there we have it. It was a really great conversation that I had with that nurse, Andrew. Just so appreciative of everything that they do out there. I just cannot even believe what that's probably like day in and day out at the ICU.
Yeah, and especially, still urging Americans to remain vigilant and follow CDC guidelines, follow restrictions put in place by your state governors, because as that nurse was saying, we're not over this yet. It's still happening. It's happening worse than it ever has been in the pandemic. So I thought that was a pretty urgent warning and message, even with this good news about the vaccine, Daytona.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to be transitioning a little bit right now. It's not going to be COVID-19 anymore, but let's transition to politics. Some big breaking news coming out today. I'm going to pull up this tweet. Attorney General William Barr has officially resigned from the White House. President Trump tweeting this out, saying that he just had a nice meeting with Attorney General Bill Barr at the White House. Our relationship has been a very good one. He has done an outstanding job as per the letter, which obviously he put out a letter, resignation letter. Bill will be leaving just before Christmas to spend the holidays with his family. Andrew, was this expected, or what was the timing of this?
Yeah, Daytona. Well, to be frank, there have been so many reports that Bill Barr was on the chopping block in this administration. It is in a sense that the president had been talking about firing Bill Barr for the last 2 weeks or so. And so now we're hearing earlier today that Bill Barr preempted that by offering his letter of resignation to the president. The president accepted that. And you'll remember this kind of all stemmed from that Associated Press interview that the Attorney General Bill Barr did, in which he said the Department of Justice under him had been investigating some of these allegations of voter fraud, but said nothing was conclusive as far as allegations of widespread fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. The president was not happy about those statements from the Attorney General. And so now, about 2 weeks after that, we're seeing this resignation come through. I just want to bring up some of the highlights from this resignation letter. So essentially, Barr and Trump met today under the premise of talking about some of these voter fraud allegations and irregularities in the 2020 election and the DOJ's review of that. That was kind of the basis for them meeting in the first place. But the letter goes on to state that and lauds the president on a number of his accomplishments in the last 4 years on the foreign policy front, on the economy, and the like, and especially with this vaccine progress and approval today. That was all in this resignation letter. So now acting secretary, or excuse me, an acting attorney general has been named. I believe his name is Jeff Rosen. He was the deputy attorney general. Now he's moved as the acting, temporary attorney general for the Department of Justice and for the White House. So yes, you're right, Daytona. We had been hearing, will he resign? Will he get fired? And now today we know he has resigned. He will be done effective December 23rd. So he won't be staying through the end of the administration on January 20th. Of next year.
Andrew, I'm curious, we were just talking about this off camera, but what is the relationship like between President Trump and with Barr? Did any of this possibly spur from those comments made from the Attorney General about his election fraud lawsuits? If you remember that, just a couple weeks ago, William Barr came out and said, we are not seeing any evidence of election fraud in the presidential election. Do you think that this was kind of pressure from the president?
Yeah, so obviously I don't want to speculate on the motivations for why this firing happened, but we can kind of explore, kind of a little bit how the relationship between Barr and Trump has soured in the recent weeks. Remember, Attorney General Bill Barr was a vehement and adamant supporter of the president and his policies. Remember, during the Mueller investigation, Bill Barr essentially, testified for hours under the oath in front of the Judiciary Committee in the House and the Senate, really defending the president and his conduct in regards to, his, behavior and actions in regard to the Russia investigation. Remember, the president did not fire special counsel Bob Mueller. He did fire FBI Director Jim Comey, but Barr essentially stuck by the president during all of that. And remember, he even initiated now the review of that investigation itself. He appointed the special prosecutor John Durham, who's looking into that. Also, Barr was very instrumental in sticking by the president's side and defending him during the impeachment proceedings. There was even these reports that Barr intervened in the sentencing of his friend and longtime ally, Roger Stone. So essentially, Bill Barr has really, been at the president's side, had his back on a number of these scandals involving the Department of Justice and the president. But like I said, in recent weeks, since that interview with the Associated Press, in which Barr essentially said, you know what, the DOJ is looking at this. We haven't found anything that would suggest widespread fraud in the election, especially enough to overturn the outcome. The president didn't like that. So reports have suggested that in the last 2 weeks or so, the relationship has become quite tense between the two.
And kind of interesting to note that President-elect Biden has not nominated a pick for Attorney General, right?
That's right. It still remains to be seen, who's on the short list for that position. That's a really crucial position in any administration. Remember, the president essentially, cast off his first Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, after he after he recused himself from the Mueller investigation. And that really caused a rift between the two. Even, the president wouldn't even endorse and campaign on Sessions' behalf in the Alabama Senate primary. So, essentially, Bill Barr is not being treated like Jeff Sessions in that sense, but maybe Bill Barr was trying to prevent some of those feelings of animosity like Trump has for Jeff Sessions by preemptively resigning today and not getting fired.
Very interesting. Let's head over to Georgia because it was the first day of early voting for the Senate runoffs. So what does this timetable look like? Obviously, today was the first day of early voting, but how long does this last and when will we know it's official?
Right, so as you know, Daytona states implement early voting, so Georgians can go in person and cast their vote, and they don't have to do it on January 5th, the day of the actual runoff races there in the state between, Perdue and Ossoff and Warnock and Loeffler. So this is just kind of, a matter of convenience for Georgians who don't want to stay in long lines on the actual day. They can go vote early. But this is the first day for it. I'm not sure if it lasts all the way up until the 5th or kind of cuts off a few days before that deadline. But as you know, now Georgians do have the chance to go in person, pick who they want to represent them in the U.S. Senate. We'll be watching that here on NewsNOW from Fox. Remember, these two races will determine the makeup of the Senate, if it stays in Republican hands for a Republican majority, or if it goes to a 50-50 split amongst Democrats and Republicans. And remember, Senator Kamala Harris, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, would be that tiebreaker in the Senate if there was any close legislation that was passed that needed a tie-breaking vote. So as we've been bringing you on NewsNOW from Fox, all of these campaign events, but we should mention that Joe Biden will be in Atlanta tomorrow to campaign on behalf of those Democratic Senate candidates. That's the first time he's been traveling since becoming president-elect. Daytona.
Yeah, so I'm reading here, early voting runs through the end of December and election day is January 5th, so just towards the end of December. Also something to be noting during this time, Georgia has a lot of eyes on it because of whoever wins this will gain, obviously, control of the Senate, but also because Georgia was a part of these election fraud claims from President Trump and his allies. And so I think that for this election as well, for this runoff, There's been a lot of allegations already. People really trying to make sure what happened in the presidential race doesn't happen this time around. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and other election officials are already saying, we're keeping our eyes on this one. That nothing is going to happen. We're going to do everything in our control to make sure that there are no claims of voter fraud in the state of Georgia, too.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because of all those claims in the state, promulgated by the president and his allies. It'll be interesting to see how turnout is in this race. Remember, Georgians just voted in an election on November 3rd. They're being asked to vote again January 5th. So I'll be looking out for that, if turnout is up or if it's down, because of all of these claims and news happening surrounding the runoffs.
Yeah, so experts are just saying double and triple check your ballot before you place it in the scanner or drop it off in the secure drop box. With obviously this pandemic still ongoing and a lot of people, voting looks a little different this year. That's right. So let's switch gears again. We're still staying with elections, but let's talk about the Electoral College. All day today, we were going from state to state, and this was basically just formalizing President-elect Biden's win, correct? Was there anything that stood out to you today, Andrew? I'm curious.
Well, like you said, we've been showing you all of these scenes of, the inside of these state legislatures where electors have been meeting to cast their ballots to formalize, like you said, President-elect Biden's victory in the states that he won, and then President Trump's electors in the states that he won. And so, as you know, 538 electors. Whoever wins, President-elect Biden, that's the winner. He needed to get that 270 threshold, which he did. He got 306 electoral votes. President Trump got 232, almost in direct inverse relation from the president's victory back in 2016, might I add. So I thought that was interesting. We saw a lot of familiar faces as delegates today and as electors in these states. Hillary Rodham Clinton was an elector in New York. Stacey Abrams was an elector in Georgia. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers was an elector in Wisconsin. We spoke to one of those electors in Wisconsin today. She said she was really proud to do this. She felt it was her duty. Remember, the parties, Republican and Democratic parties, are responsible for picking the electors themselves in those states. That kind of happens around the convention in July and August of this year. And so that's who these people were going into the state legislatures today. And so it's just the system playing out, Daytona. It's our democracy functioning as it should. We did get some reports that in states, especially the battleground states, there were some efforts by the pro-Trump GOP electors to kind of, mount this alternative slate, if you will, especially in states the president lost, in order to kind of counter the Democratic electors. Obviously, those efforts cannot work and legally cannot work, and so we were just kind of monitoring that a little bit. But December 14th, that was the day. So now we'll be looking toward January 6th, Daytona, and that's when the House, in a joint session with the Senate, takes this up and votes on it and certifies it. And then, of course, January 20th, the inauguration, when Biden will be sworn in. So that's what's next on the radar for election 2020. We have a few more weeks of it left, if you will. But Daytona, I do want to just preview here. We've been speaking to electors all day in states. Spoke to one earlier in Wisconsin. And just earlier, I spoke to Robin Smith. She is a Democratic elector from the state of Michigan. She's from Lansing, Michigan, the state capital there. Normally, she is a school librarian in the Lansing Public School District, but she told me about her experience from earlier today.
Yeah, Andrew, who better to understand how the Electoral College works than an elector herself? So we'll play that out, and then we got a couple more things to get to, and then that's going to be it for our rundown. So we'll play out this conversation right now.
All right, Robin Smith, thanks so much for being with NewsNOW from Fox. Tell us about your experience today as one of Michigan's 16 electors on Electoral College Day.
Well, I tell you, it was a little bit more emotional than what I expected. This morning, I got up and called my mom. I was just kind of feeling a little uneasy about things, a little stressed. And my mom just talked to me about kind of the gravity of the moment. You know, make sure you stay in the moment, that the governor has done everything that she can to make sure that you're safe and secure. And that really helped me. And it really was an awesome day, an awesome experience. It was such an honor to be able to be a delegate and to cast our votes, the Michigan delegates for Joe Biden.
And so how do you even become an elector in the state? What is that process like? You know, how long does it take to become one, or do you get approached by someone? How does that work?
Well, I was elected in our congressional district, which is the 8th district, and it took place back in August. If you're interested in being a delegate, you submit your name. I submitted my name, and with overwhelming support from my congressional district, I was really excited about that. I serve as the secretary for our 8th congressional district and the vice chair for our Ingham County Dems, but I also am on the State Central Committee and work on the executive with the Michigan Democratic Party. So I'm pretty involved, and it's one of those things that you were just kind of waiting on it to happen, and it just seemed like it kept getting further and further away. And so when the moment was here, I could feel the weight of it.
And so, you know, normally, what is your day job, I guess? How do you, day to day in Michigan there? What do you do?
Well, I'm an educator, and I'm the librarian for our K-8 buildings in Lansing School District. And I'm really excited because this gave me an opportunity, after being on the board for Lansing Community College for 13 years, as well as serving on the national board, which is the Association of Community Colleges, had an opportunity to experience President Obama as well as Joe Biden, because they were about college access, and it's a natural tie with educators. So,
and can you kind of explain, your feelings going into today, especially with, a lot of uneasiness for the electors themselves? We've heard reports in several states where the locations of the electors were not going to be announced. From what I understand, the electors there in Michigan, had police escorts today in Lansing. What were you feeling going into that about kind of some of these, threats and, possibly inciting violence from some people on the other side?
Well, it definitely made you feel very cautious, because we had Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State, which is our chief election officer, having protests with guns in her front yard. And it definitely made you think about what's going to happen. And I had conversations with my family about if it looked like I needed to go to another location as it got closer to try to protect them, that was what I was willing to do. And it's really unfortunate, because this is something that should have just been ceremonial, but it really became very confrontational, and it's just where our nation is, and it's just really unfortunate. I will say that the Michigan State Police were right there, and so I felt very safe and secure. But driving up to the Capitol, it was just a really somber feeling. And it was because of the resistance that was there, rather than it's the delayed gratification or the delayed excitement that you wanted to be able to experience going in.
Yeah, and do you think for 2024 you might be a delegate, or an elector as well? Do you want to do this again, or was this kind of a one-time experience?
I'd love to do it again, but it's one of those things that's kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think we had one of our delegates that he said he's been a Dem for 70 years, and this was his first time being able to be a delegate. And so it's a very coveted position. It's an honor to be able to do it. And so I'm very glad that I had the experience of being able to do it in 2020. This is definitely an election that we won't forget, and it was an honor to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much for joining News Now from Fox. That was Robin Smith there, I believe in Lansing, Michigan. I'm from Jackson, Michigan myself. So thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much for the interview.
Have a good night.
Well, there you have it. That was Andrew Kraft and Robin Smith breaking down what it's like to be an elector during this time. Andrew, I found it really, really interesting when she said this was supposed to be ceremonial, but it felt confrontational. It just kind of feels like that was a theme for this whole entire year, for this whole election. That hit hard.
Remember, Daytona, these are just public servants carrying out the functions of government, right? We heard Joe Biden mention that in his remarks from Wilmington about an hour ago, saying that the threats against people, election workers themselves, is unconscionable, right? You know, they never asked to be in the spotlight. They're just doing their jobs. They work tirelessly to do it. Same with the electors, right? Remember, these are mostly party officials, local state elections officials as well, who kind of serve as Democratic or Republican electors. You know, these they're not, you know, your A-list political figures that everyone knows the names of, but sometimes that isn't the case. That, you know, the country does kind of get to know these people, especially in the last 4-5 weeks, because of the election that has been dragged out. And so I found that interesting. You know, the Michigan State Legislature today said they were going to, you know, close the Capitol to the public at the Capitol grounds because they were worried about people coming to protest the electors meeting. Remember, here in Arizona, there were reports, Daytona, that Secretary of State Katie Hobbs wouldn't disclose the location of where the electors were meeting. So definitely very tense, and that's why I wanted to, like, you know, get some electors to respond to that and how they were feeling. So.
Yeah, because this is a very human issue too, and something that really is new. I don't think this has happened in previous elections. So definitely an interesting topic as we wrap a bow on the election, or we look forward to wrapping a bow in January. We did hear from President-elect Joe Biden a little bit earlier. He gave an address in Wilmington, Delaware, just following, obviously, the confirmation of the Electoral College's votes. So we're going to play that out for you again here on News Now from Fox, because it's pretty short, and it was just kind of saying, hey, I'm here, and I'm ready for this, and I'm ready for these steps forward. It feels like today was somewhat of a step forward in a lot of different ways, right?
Yes, especially today, you know, following a lot of the Republican senators on the Hill, a lot of reporters were asking them, that I was seeing on social media, you know, do you accept Joe Biden as the president-elect? And you did see a number of Senate Republicans finally acknowledge that, yes, after today, you know, there's no disputing that fact that he is the president-elect, because he got, you know, more than 270 electoral votes. So that was the day where maybe finally some of those Senate Republicans said, okay, I'm ready to just acknowledge that and move forward. Lindsey Graham did, I believe, Senator John Thune did, Senator Joni Ernst did. So there were some holdouts there still, but we heard from a lot of Senate Republicans today. So yes, you're right. This is a short speech from Joe Biden. We'll play it out for you here on News Now from Fox in case you missed it earlier. And these are his remarks right here.
Yeah, so again, I'm Daytona Everett. That's Andrew Kraft. Give us a follow on Twitter at NewsNowFox. Throughout the day, we're giving you live, raw, unfiltered, nonstop news from across the country, all of the biggest headlines, not only political, but breaking news. We covered a little sports news today, so we got everything you need to hear. I'm going to send some of you off to a 2-minute commercial break, but when you come back, President-elect Biden taking the stage in Wilmington, Delaware.
More Americans voted this year than have ever voted in the history of the United States of America. Over 155 million Americans were determined to have their voices heard and their votes counted. In the start of this pandemic, this crisis, many were wondering how many Americans would actually vote at all. But those fears proved to be unfounded. We saw something very few predicted, even thought possible. The biggest voter turnout in the history of the United States of America. A number so big that this election now ranks as the clearest demonstration of the true will of the American people. One of the most amazing demonstrations of civic duty we've ever seen in our country. It should be celebrated, not attacked. More than 81 million of those votes were cast for me and Vice President-elect Harris. That too is a record. More than any ticket has received in the history of America. It represents a winning margin of more than 7 million votes over the number of votes cast for my opponent. Together, the Vice President-elect Harris and I earned 306 electoral votes, well exceeding the 270 electoral votes needed to secure victory. 306 electoral votes is the same number of electoral votes that Donald Trump and Vice President Pence received when they won in 2016. Excuse me. At the time, President Trump called the Electoral College tally a landslide. By his own standards, these numbers represented a clear victory then, and I respectfully suggest they do so now. If anyone didn't know before, they know now. What beats deep in the hearts of the American people is this: democracy. The right to be heard, to have your vote counted, to choose leaders of this nation, to govern ourselves. In America, politicians don't take power. People grant power to them. The flame of democracy was lit in this nation a long time ago. And we now know nothing, not even a pandemic or an abuse of power, can extinguish that flame. And as the people kept it aflame, so too did courageous state and local officials and election workers. American democracy works because America makes it work at a local level. One of the extraordinary things we saw this year was that everyday Americans, our friends and our neighbors, often volunteers, Democrats, Republicans, independents, demonstrating absolute courage. They showed a deep and unwavering faith in and a commitment to the law. They did their duty in the face of a pandemic. And then they could not and would not give credence to what they knew was not true. They knew this election was overseen by them, it was honest, it was free, and it was fair. They saw it with their own eyes, and they wouldn't be bullied into saying anything different. It was truly remarkable, because so many of these patriotic Americans are subject to so much, enormous political pressure, verbal abuse, and even threats of physical violence. While we all wish that our fellow Americans in these positions will always show such courage and commitment to free and fair elections, it is my sincere hope we never again see anyone subjected to the kind of threats and abuse we saw in this election. It's simply unconscionable. We owe these public servants a debt of gratitude. They didn't seek the spotlight. You know, and our democracy survived because of them, which is proof, once more, that it's everyday Americans infused with honor, character, and decency that is the heart of this nation. You know, in this election, their integrity was matched by their strength, independence, and the integrity of our judicial system. In America, when questions are raised about the legitimacy of any election, those questions are resolved through the legal processes. And that's precisely what happened here. The Trump campaign brought dozens and dozens and dozens of legal challenges to test the result. They were heard again and again. And each of the times they were heard, they were found to be without merit. Time and again, President Trump's lawyers presented arguments to state officials, state legislatures, state and federal courts, and ultimately to the United States Supreme Court twice. They were heard by more than 80 judges across this country, and in every case, no cause or evidence was found to reverse or question or dispute the results. A few states went for recounts. All the counts were confirmed. The results in Georgia were counted 3 times. Didn't change the outcome. The recount conducted in Wisconsin actually saw our margin grow. The margin we had in Michigan was 14 times the margin President Trump won that state by 4 years ago. Our margin in Pennsylvania was nearly twice the size of the Trump margin 4 years ago. And yet, none of this has stopped baseless claims about the legitimacy of the results. Even more stunning, 17 Republican attorneys general and 126 Republican members of the Congress actually signed on to a lawsuit filed by the state of Texas. That lawsuit asked the United States Supreme Court to reject the certified vote counts in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. This legal maneuver was an effort by elected officials and one group of states to try to get the Supreme Court to wipe out the votes of more than 20 million Americans in other states, and to hand the presidency to a candidate who lost the Electoral College, lost the popular vote, and lost each and every one of the states whose votes they were trying to reverse. It's a position so extreme, we've never seen it before. A position that refused to respect the will of the people, refused to respect the rule of law, and refused to honor our Constitution. Thankfully, a unanimous Supreme Court immediately and completely rejected this effort. The court sent a clear signal to President Trump that there would be no part of an unprecedented assault on our democracy. Every single avenue was made available to President Trump to contest the results. He took full advantage of each and every one of those avenues. President Trump was denied no course of action he wanted to take. He took his case to Republican governors and Republican Secretary of State, as he criticized many of them, to Republican state legislatures, to Republican-appointed judges at every level. And in a case decided after the Supreme Court's latest rejection, a judge appointed by President Trump wrote, quote, "This court has allowed the plaintiff the chance to make his case, and he has lost on the merits," end of quote. Lost on the merits. Even President Trump's own cybersecurity chief, overseeing our elections, said it was the most secure election in American history, and summarily was let go. Let me say it again. His own cybersecurity chief, overseeing this election, said it was the most secure in American history. You know, respecting the will of the people is at the heart of our democracy, even when we find those results hard to accept. But that's the obligation of those who've taken on a sworn duty to uphold the Constitution. 4 years ago, when I was a sitting vice president of the United States, it was my responsibility to announce the tally of the Electoral College votes in the joint session of Congress that voted to elect Donald Trump. I did my job. And I'm pleased, but not surprised, by the number of my former Republican colleagues in the Senate who have acknowledged already the results of the Electoral College. I thank them, and I'm convinced we can work together for the good of the nation on many subjects. That's the duty owed to the people, to our Constitution, to our history. You know, in this battle for the soul of America, democracy prevailed. We, the people, voted. Faith in our institutions held. The integrity of our elections remains intact. And now it's time to turn the page, as we've done throughout our history, to unite, to heal. As I said in this campaign, I will be president for all Americans. I'll work just as hard for those of you who didn't vote for me as I will for those who did. There's urgent work in front of us. Getting this pandemic under control and getting the nation vaccinated against this virus. Delivering immediate economic help so badly needed by so many Americans who are hurting today. And then building our economy back better than it ever was. In doing so, we need to work together to give each other a chance to lower the temperature. And most of all, we need to stand in solidarity as fellow Americans, to see each other, our pains, our struggles, our hopes, and our dreams. We're a great nation. We're good people. We may come from different places, hold different beliefs, but we share in common a love for this country, a belief in its limitless possibilities. For we, the United States of America, has always set the example for the world for a peaceful transition of power. We'll do so again. I know the task before us won't be easy. It's tempered by the pain so many of us are feeling. Today, our nation passed a grim milestone. 300,000 deaths due to this COVID virus. My heart goes out to each of you in this dark winter of the pandemic. About to spend the holidays and the new year with a black hole in your hearts, without the ones you loved at your side. My heart goes out to all of you who have fallen in hard times through no fault of your own, unable to sleep at night, staring at the ceiling, and weighed down by the worry of what tomorrow will bring for you, and equally important for your family. But we've faced difficult times before in our history. I know we'll get through this one, but together. That's how we get through it, together. So as we start the hard work to be done, may this moment give us the strength to rebuild this house of ours upon a rock that can never be washed away. As in the prayer of St. Francis, for where there is discord, union, where there is doubt, faith, where there is darkness, light. This is who we are as a nation. This is the America we love. And that is the America we're going to be. So thank you all. May God bless you. And may God protect our troops and all those who stand watch over our democracy. Thank you. Thanks for the congratulations. Appreciate it.
So we just wanted to show you that here on News Now from Fox. In case you missed it from earlier, President-elect Biden addressing the nation on what commemorates now the final tally of electoral votes that were cast today in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. So the election has been certified in that respect and formalized, and now we wait for January 6th when it's taken up in Congress with that joint session of the House and the Senate to certify the vote there. I'm Andrew Kraft. We have about an hour left of live coverage on this Monday night. We hope you had a good weekend. We're going to play out for you now a lot of great content from our sister stations around the country, our Fox affiliates. They give us content throughout the day. We're fortunate to show it to you. It's about a number of different topics: the coronavirus vaccine, celebrity interviews, the holidays coming up, and et cetera and et cetera. So we're going to start off with our sister station in Chicago, Fox 32.
And just recently hit an impressive milestone: 1 million saliva tests, and still counting.
Yeah, we want to welcome back Chancellor Robert Jones to talk about the never-ending battle against the spread of COVID on campus. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
Terrific. I don't think people may realize at home, Chancellor, how seriously you've taken this testing. You're behind 10% of all the COVID tests administered here in Illinois since the start of the pandemic. So clearly that is impressive. You're not just keeping the students safe, you're working within the community. So why so much effort to test?